And that breaking news alert, News4Jax has learned former Congresswoman Corrine Brown has been released from prison. A prison official telling us that she was released at 1:25 p.m. The official telling News4Jax Brown put a lot of political pressure on trying to get released early. Tom?
News4Jax had previously reported her attorneys were already working to get her out because of concerns about her health and her being at risk of catching the coronavirus. We are covering this story from several angles. We're going to begin now with Joy Purdy, who just spoke with a friend of former Congresswoman Corrine Brown. Joy?
Yes, Tom, Mary, this news is traveling like wildfire. Now, just minutes ago, we actually spoke with Kelvin Lawrence Cabarrus, one of Brown's spiritual advisors. That video you saw right at the top of the newscast, the Sky 4 video when Corrine reported to prison in January of 2018, he was the person physically walking her to the prison gates. Well, we spoke with him a short time ago about Brown's release.
Well, Ms. Brown is absolutely relieved during this COVID-19 pandemic that we're all faced with. It was a great concern of her and her family and, of course, all of us that she was there in the Coleman facility during this time, and was very relieved that she was able to be released home today for better safety and protection.
Now, in just the past hour, this is what Tom mentioned. I spoke with John Crossman. He's a real estate mogul in Orlando. You're seeing photos of him now. He's also carrying on his father's legacy as a civil rights activist. Crossman, as his father did, started scholarships at predominantly black colleges like Bethune-Cookman. That's how he met Corrine Brown, who supported his work. Well, this afternoon, he says he got a call from Brown's friend who handed the phone to her so she could speak directly with Crossman. Crossman says Brown was grateful to be out of prison and that she would now be resting with family. Crossman says when Brown was leaving the prison, all the other inmates cheered for her. Brown has become an ear and wants to be an advocate for the other female inmates that are housed with her. Now, I asked Crossman, you're looking at video of us speaking before COVID-19 hit. This was back in March. I asked Crossman today how long Brown would be out of prison. He didn't know that, so I also asked him about her health. Once Brown went to prison, Crossman visited her there through a prison ministry he's had for years. His last visit with her was in February. He said when he saw her, she was very sedentary, didn't move much. She had issues with her knees. He mentioned high blood pressure, diabetes, but he says while he asked her about her health during that visit, she didn't want to talk about it and instead introduced him to each of the other female inmates, told him each of their stories, saying she's eager to help Crossman now with his push for prison reform, especially now that she has experienced it from the inside. Now, the Department of Justice released guidelines that took effect yesterday, April 21st. It allows prisoners eligible for release to home confinement amid the coronavirus outbreak. They must have served at least 50% of their sentence. This applied to federal prisons across the country. Brown has not quite served 50% of her sentence. She went to prison in January of 2018, as I mentioned. She was scheduled to be at Coleman until the year 2022. Mary?
All right, Joy, thank you. Now, News4Jax I-Team investigator Lindsay Gardner joins us. And Lindsay, you covered Corrine Brown's trial, and you've been talking with people about today's developments. What are you hearing?
Well, Mary, yes, not only are we working with sources trying to get confirmed what we now know to be true, that she was released, but also we are hearing a lot of outrage from people in the community saying that this is a miscarriage of justice. I mean, remember, this is a publicly elected official accused of using a slush fund, this children's charity, and she was convicted of conspiracy, tax evasion, fraud in that, mega trial that we covered back in 2017. But I want to put this into perspective for people. U.S. senators are asking the Bureau of Prisons to consider these early releases, and things that they are considering in this unprecedented outbreak of this COVID-19 is they're looking at people's age, their pre-existing health conditions, if their crime was a nonviolent crime, and if they have served 50% of their time. Now, Joy mentioned she hadn't quite met that 50% benchmark, but federal prisoners typically only serve 85%, and then they go into a halfway house, which again, with COVID-19, that's communal living, and that is something that's not possible right now. So we're seeing people being released over and over again all across the country, not only here in Florida, not only Corrine Brown, but thousands of federal prisoners have been released just this week to help alleviate the overcrowding in these prisons amongst this pandemic. So Corrine Brown would check all of those boxes. She is in a high-risk category. She has hypertension. She has diabetes. She is a nonviolent offender, and she had served right at 50% of the 85% of her sentence there. She served 2 years and 3 months, but we are hearing a lot of outrage. And again, trying to put it further in perspective for folks, the CDC has put out guidelines for nursing homes as well as prisons. These are communal living environments where it takes one person, whether that be a jailer or a nurse possibly in a nursing home, takes one asymptomatic carrier to come in, and what the CDC says, once that one person is in those tight communal quarters, the coronavirus can spread with, quote, rapid transmission. That is the CDC language. That is why you see the Bureau of Prisons taking this unprecedented move, letting thousands of people out all across the country, like Corrine Brown, to try to stop and slow the spread of this virus. I do want to mention, Mary, I saw one new study from an insurance agency here this week saying that the average person hospitalized with coronavirus will have a $30,000 hospital bill. $30,000. Now that's just an average. That's not to say that that's what it would cost within the prison system, but just trying to put that into perspective for taxpayers. That is why they are looking at these early releases. They cannot have these massive outbreaks and all these hospitalizations that people are getting critically ill of coronavirus, because again, you're going to run out of places to put these people. You're going to see an increase in cases, that rapid transmission. So just like nursing homes are trying to adjust, as the governor just mentioned, you are looking at federal agencies, the Bureau of Prisons, also adjusting in real time to this pandemic and making case-by-case decisions. Now, what we don't know, is she on probation? Is she on home confinement? How long will these terms last? These are questions we are still asking, and we are trying to get answers for everyone right now. Mary?
Yeah, we definitely want to get those answers, and we will continue pursuing them. Lindsay Gardner reporting to us. Thanks so much, Lindsay.
We're told that Corrine Brown was released from prison just before 1:30 this afternoon. That means she has now been a free woman for 4 hours. We're told that she's returning to her hometown of Jacksonville. News 4 Jax reporter Jim Piggott is outside Brown's Northside home. He is joining us live. Jim?
You know, Tom, let me show you what's happening here, or actually what's not happening here. The gate is locked. There's nobody at the house right now. This is in North Jacksonville in the Lake Forest Hills area. A little bit earlier, actually, when I arrived up here, when we first learned about this, there was a yard crew out here cleaning up the property, but they have since locked the gate. Neighbors here that I've talked to said that they weren't aware that if she was coming here. Though we also understand, in talking to her spiritual advisor, that she may be staying with family. You know, her daughter, Chantrell, we're not sure if she's going to be staying with her or not at this point. But at her house right now, which is just off the Trout River, the yard has been cleaned up. It appears, though, that nobody is here and nobody is aware if she's coming here. But imagine over the course of time, maybe later tonight, possibly later on, after she's with family, she'll end up here at this house, because this is where she has been for many years. I've talked to her many times at this property before as well. But that's the situation. We're standing by waiting to see if Corrine Brown shows up at her home here in North Jacksonville. For now, we're live on the north side. Jim Piggott, Channel 4, the local station.